Welcome, welcome, everybody. Greg Peterson coming to you from my new place in Asheville, North Carolina. I was just commenting that it's humid here. It's not a dry heat. And I am here with Miss Janice. Hello, Janice.
Hi, Greg. Good to see you again.
Oh, as always, great to see you. And I actually saw you earlier today in a meeting.
I know. Well, I'm over here in North Peoria. We do have a very dry, very hot day, which is a little bit of a transition for those of us who are kind of enjoying that slow ramp up in heat. But it's a good thing for those of us who are trying to get ready for the mesquite, because we need those mesquite to dry on the tree. And that's what we're here to talk about tonight.
Excellent. Where'd Mike go, Peggy?
He will be right back.
All right, cool. Then we're also here with Dawn Titmus. Dawn and I got a crazy idea about 15 years ago and decided to start bringing the Mesquite Bean mill up from Tucson, and did that for a few years. And then for whatever reason, the organization that was working it decided not to do it anymore. So we got another wild hair 5 years ago and decided to buy a mill for us here in Phoenix. So
right,
we still have it, and it's still a community asset. It was mostly paid for by the community. Thank you very much. And Dawn is from Bee Oasis, and we also are here with Peggy Sue Sorensen. Hello, Peggy Sue.
I do Peggy Sue.
Hello.
And Peggy is an amazing forager, and her partner and friend Mike should be coming in here really soon. There we go. And Mike Clow, welcome, Mike. So I'm going to actually turn it over to Dawn and Peggy and Mike and let them introduce themselves quickly. Dawn?
well, hello. Yes, been doing wild harvesting of different types for quite some time, not mostly for myself, because I do not restrict myself to growing my food in my yard. I'm harvesting from everywhere, because everywhere is a garden. And a lot of stuff just goes to waste and ends up in the landfill, and that drives me insane. So I've been gleaning for a long time, and I got into the mesquite program and love mesquite and the harvesting and the processing and everything, and love the collaboration that we're doing now. And I really appreciate that we have this program still going on. And yeah, that's good enough for me right now. I'll see you out in the woods, and we'll harvest some more mesquite buds. Nice.
How can we not have this program go on? Heck, I moved all the way across the country and we still are having this program go on. This is that important. Peggy?
Hi. So I started learning about the edible plants of the desert Southwest back in the early 90s. And
really?
mesquite, yes, mesquite became, I learned about it, but I never really harvested until I took a class with Greg. I think it was in 2008, and I was hooked. So whenever I would see someone, I would always have mesquite pods with me. So I wanted people to taste it, know what it was like. And so so I just spread the word, and then one day people started asking me to teach a class, and so that's what I love to do, is to show people how great this plant is.
Nice.
And I've been living in Sonoran Desert Wilderness area since age 12. I won't say how long ago that was, because I don't remember. But
just 20 or 30
I just
years.
really something, yeah. And so we have a little acreage out here in the desert, near the Sonoran Desert National Monument, and we just have a lot of trees here on the property of all kinds, and we harvest absolutely everything around us: the cactus, fruits, and the mesquite, and Palo Verde and ironwood beans. And we're just really into this stuff, and we teach people about it and do it, and we feel it's very worthwhile, to say the least.
Nice.
So cool.
Nice. And it's important. We're here to answer your questions. So it's important that you drop your questions in the Q&A section down at the bottom right. You want to introduce yourself, Janice? Did you?
I did. I'm Janice. I run a little tiny little urban farm in North Peoria. I have been harvesting mesquite for about 3 years now. And I took a class with Peggy. Oh, that was before the pandemic. So it's been a little longer than 3 years. I took a class with Peggy, who brought around testing samples of different syrups and stuff that we could smell and taste and get the be able to identify it. It was so transformative to have able to taste the stuff. And I went home and I'm thinking, I need some of that in my coffee. I want to use some of this in my cooking. And I took the class because I wanted to know more about Peggy, and we were doing more with the mesquite program here. Of course, what am I doing? I'm organizing it. I'm doing all the background stuff. But it was fun to go out and try the stuff and then bringing into my kitchen and start doing the experimentation and being exposed to the different flavors was kind of fun. My husband's not really into the native stuff that he says, but now he's making stuff with my mesquite. And he's like, hey, can we try this in pumpkin pie next? And I'm like, let's go for it. Right?
That sounds
That's a good
awesome.
idea.
Right?
Yeah, tell them we appreciate that idea.
Right? So that's what's happening over here. We are having fun experimenting and trying new stuff. And I love just telling people about it because of the nutrition and the healthier way of eating with mesquite than it would be with any other flour. And I'm trying to go gluten-free or at least native grains so that I have more control over what I'm eating. And this is one of the pathways I'm doing that.
Now, Mike, you know a lot about nutrition. Is there gluten in
Before we go there, I want to say something. This is Mesquite Education Month. This class tonight is our Mesquite chat. This is where we're going to try and answer your questions that you're going to put in the Q&A. And with this little group of experts here, we're going to be able to have somebody that knows something, or we'll know where we can go to get the information. But I want to tell you that we do have videos available at urbanfarm.org/mesquite. Now, these videos, our whole program here is supposedly kind of mostly for the South Central desert area. If you live outside of the Phoenix area, there's still going to be some good information, but you might have to do a little trek in for our culmination event, which is a mesquite milling at the end of the month that we're all working for you.
Nice.
So that's kind of what our program is about tonight. This is one element of the education program that we're using to help bring enlightenment and inspiration to the local area to improve their own food sources.
Cool.
So,
And I will say that when it comes to local area, mesquite was a staple food from the Pacific Ocean to the Gulf of Mexico
yes.
back in the day.
Nice.
So this is a wide-ranging subject, really.
That's
We
so
happen to be
cool.
sort of in the center of it.
Everybody that is posting in the chat with questions, please move them over to the Q&A. That way we won't miss them.
We'll try and grab them, but if you
Yeah.
put it in the Q&A, we'll do a better job. You know, that's a good point, Mike, about the region of mesquite and the history. You say that it's not just local, but how long have people been collecting mesquite? How long has this been a food source?
Thousands of years.
Mesquite is absolutely a staple food source since there have been people in where mesquite trees are, period, because there's no way that you wouldn't, if you're walking into Arizona as the first human to ever do it, there's no way you're not going to grab one of these beans, and they are so full of sugar that there's no way you're not going to just keep right on grabbing them.
Yeah.
This has been a stable food source absolutely since there have been humans here. I without knowing that, I can feel very confident in saying that because they're so delicious and so obvious, you know.
Yeah.
Low hanging
My-
fruit in a literal sense.
In a literal, exactly. My partner Heidi uses them in recipes instead of sugar.
Oh,
So,
yes,
A
absolutely.
one for one
When you
switch
bake
up
with
for
this-
sugar, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you bake with this, you can definitely cut your sugar to somewhere between 0 and 50% of recipe.
Well, make sure that they understand that the mesquite syrup or the mesquite sugar aspect is on the low glycemic scale, that it tastes real sweet, but it's not going to spike your
sugar.
endocrine system.
I loved learning about that. My son is diabetic, and when we were first doing the world of mesquite and you were talking about that, I was delving into that because giving my son alternative options that he could taste the sweetness without doing the sugar spike, that was very important to me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that people who are type 2 diabetes would also be benefit from that.
Yeah. So Mike, back to my nutrition question, gluten or no?
Oh, this is definitely a gluten-free flour, and you can use it as you would any gluten-free flour in any gluten-free recipe. And like any gluten-free flour, it will need a binder, such as guar gum or xanthan gum or psyllium husk or chia. But in any case, it is a gluten-free flour, absolutely, positively.
Cool.
That is if you're baking, but there are recipes you can use the flour without a binder. Because I make mesquite balls and I mix it with peanut butter and a little salt and just roll them up. It's really simple. Like 1 cup, I have a blog that I posted, and 1 cup of mesquite flour, 1 cup of peanut butter, or a little bit more if it's a little too dry. And you can roll them up and then roll that
Wow.
ball into extra flour, and it's really a nice quick snack.
Gluten-free.
Oh, nice. Okay, I'm gonna try that.
So
Okay.
you can
That sounds cool.
you can use almond butter, correct, or sunflower butter
Yes.
instead of peanut butter.
Sure.
Any nut butter,
Okay,
Exactly.
great.
any nut butter. Peanut butter tends to be the most popular, but
Yeah.
all of them work
Yeah.
good.
Cool. So Don,
Yes.
Bill wants to know, when is the best time to start planting mesquite?
20 years ago.
Good
Well,
one.
at least now, I mean, it's okay. Well, it depends where he lives and what his topography and his temperature zone is like. But, obviously most mesquites are in dry climates. They're dry climate adapted plants.
Mhm.
And yeah, plant them anytime you can get them in the ground is fabulous.
It's
You
better
will
than-
may
yeah.
have to baby it through the summer, but once you get it through one summer, it'll take off and get its deep root down, and it'll be great.
Yeah.
But you may not know what the seed pod tastes like until it actually matures, and then you will know if it's a good taste or a so-so taste.
Well, and that goes right to harvesting them. Why
You got it.
don't you give everybody 2 cents worth about before you harvest a tree, what do you do?
Okay,
You
well,
taste the pod.
yeah, taste. So, back in the day, the native people of this land, the Tohono O'odham, the Acamel, many other Pima tribes, they harvested the staple food, which was the mesquite pod. They were able to store that through long periods of time, like the potato, like the maize, like the flour grains and different things as a staple food, like the nuts of California, the acorns, those kind of things. So the scout went out and did a circle around the village, and they tagged all the trees where it was tasty trees.
Mhm.
And then the village would go out and do the harvest, bring it back to the village, and then they would start to produce the flour as needed, and they stored the pods for later. So yes, we have to taste test each tree for its sugary content, its likability, its
Hold on. If it goes like this on your face when you taste it, yeah, skip it. If it's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah,
Chalky, no good, no good. Keep
Yeah.
on going. Test the next one. Now you just have to nibble. You don't have to like eat the whole thing. You just nibble on the end. You'll get the taste right away. And then that's the tree for you to harvest. You know, it's an individual preference. Some like it real sweet, some like it medium. I haven't heard of anyone not getting a chalky one, but there are people, and the chalky
Yeah.
ones are not bad. I mean, they're perfect goat food, dog food.
Right.
I've seen dogs just,
dogs love them.
I don't carry rawhide chews anymore. When I go to my gardening clients, I carry a bag of mesquite pods. And then when the dog next door starts barking at me because I'm raking or doing whatever I'm doing, pruning in the garden, I'll throw a few pods over, and it keeps the dog quiet for a while.
Nice,
That's cool.
nice, nice. All right, so, oh, look at this.
There it
What do we
is.
got there? Yeah, that's a mesquite bean. Tell us about it, Peggy.
Okay, so this is an old one. It's got holes on one side. That's from the Mesquite Beetle. And that's another subject, but this is basically what it looks like. And to taste it, I like to break it in half. That way you
Mhm.
get the taste of inside. What you're tasting is the pulp inside the pod. You're not eating the seed or the outer coating of the pod. You're eating the pulp or tasting the pulp. So you just put it in your mouth and suck on it, or you can lightly chew it
Nibble.
and chew the pulp and then spit it out.
When we
Exactly.
cook with it, we grind it into flour, but if we're gonna just snack on it a little bit, it's a chewing thing because the flavor is so darn good.
Yeah,
And so that's the thing. And the beans and the pods are what is called inahescent. That is, the bean is inseparable from the pod. This is not like a pea
Oh.
pod where you have the pod separating from the bean. So the whole thing all gets ground up together. The bean itself has much more protein, but the combination of the two is very high protein and very delicious. And that's what we're going for, is the combination of the bean and the pod. You can chew it, you can grind it, and it's very good tasting. People say it tastes like graham crackers to give you the answer of what does it taste like. So there's an
oh,
official
yes,
answer.
yes. There you go.
I have some nutrients that I'm going to put up on the screen really quick for mesquite powder from I was trying to do some research earlier today, and this is what I get. So per 100 grams, you've got 5.8 grams of protein in there. And look at all
Wow,
that other stuff
5%.
that's in there.
Oh, you haven't shared your screen.
Oh, I haven't shared my screen. There we go.
There we go.
Nice.
So it's high in protein, it's low in sugar. It's got some good fiber in there, some calcium, some potassium, some magnesium, iron, and zinc. It's got some good stuff in there.
We got a question from Kenneth. He says, what is the carbohydrate count per gram? Anybody
I-
know?
Didn't get that.
It's a little higher than the protein. From
Yeah.
my memory. I don't have the exact numbers in my brain, but that's what I remember, that it was slightly higher. But I mean, it's a complement to the protein and all the other nutrients in there. So it's
Mhm.
it's survival food for absolute certain.
Yeah.
When the indigenous folk were doing walkabouts, going on trade missions, they just grab a bean while they're walking and chew on it. And it helps you put one foot in front of the other.
Nice. Peggy, this question's for you. PHXJS
right.
says, are pods from Fern of the desert tree, Lysa, Loma, Thornberry, edible? Oh,
The
Don's
fern,
shaking.
desert fern?
Yeah.
Lysa,
No, I don't believe so.
No,
It's a different pod.
yeah, completely different. It's similar to the acacias.
Got it.
Good for the birds, but not for humans.
And good for shade.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Kenneth wants to know, if you're growing mesquite on your property, are there any gardening tips to produce tastier pods on your property? Fertilizer, manure, fish emulsion, lime?
Do nothing. Just
Well-
just water. That's it. Just water.
Well, and you could foliar feed them. That might get them tasting a little bit better. But here's the thing, it also depends on the tree. There are the three trees, the three varieties that are native to the area are the ones that taste the best. Maybe Mike, Peggy, or Don could tell us what they are.
Yeah, the velvet.
The honey and the screw beans.
Yeah.
And the screw beans, yeah.
And
Right.
the thing about the flavor is, to answer the question about buying mesquite flour, you can
Mhm.
buy the mesquite flour in places like Whole Foods and places of that nature. But very, very often that is, this flour is commercially produced in South America. And the South American trees do not have the flavor of our local trees. This
That's
Right.
right.
is a good time to buy American because we have a much superior product here. There is commercial production going on in Texas, and I don't know if anybody here has any available for sale at this moment. At this moment, I think we don't ourselves, but in any case, when you do buy the flour, it's pretty good when you get the South American flour, but it'll be so much better if you
Oh,
get the USA.
No, actually,
flour.
I've talked to people who have bought mainly from Peru, and
Mhm.
they couldn't believe how much better the flour is here.
Yep.
Yeah,
So I'm not so sure. I've never
Amen.
tasted it, but I'm just from
Now-
other people.
There are
Don't like
some, there are people in the local area that do harvest mesquite and sell the flour, but you could probably find that at farmers markets. Would be your best resource in,
Yeah.
July and August.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to find too much of it online just because we just don't have that kind of a production facilities out here right now.
Well, and so Claudia, I think you sent me an email. I get so many emails and I apologize. The past couple of weeks, it's been crazy for me. She says, hi, do you think there is a good market commercially for mesquite products? If so, which product would you favor? Well, I personally think that there would be a great market for mesquite flowers to chefs.
Yes. Direct. Go
Direct
direct.
to chefs. They would
Mhm.
absolutely love that. I know that, oh my gosh, his name slipped my
Brent
brain.
Somebody
Fibber.
escaped you.
Yeah.
Brent
A friend,
Fibber.
of, a friend of mine, chef in Phoenix, owns several restaurants. I was at his restaurant maybe 10 years ago, and he had coated breaded chicken with mesquite flour, and it was incredible. So there's definitely a market for that. And then as far as which product, if you're going to process it and sell it, I would just do that in a commercial kitchen and take it to a farmer's market and see what people like.
Well, it's
And
a
oh, by the
quality
way,
product.
thankfully, we have a stainless steel machine
Right.
rocking it. So
Yep.
if you need to sell it to chefs, we have it ready to go.
So the importance of what Don just said was that Hammer Mills, which is the mill that we have, it's a $14,000 piece of equipment. The mill that we have usually comes with galvanized metal, which is soldered together with lead. And when it came, we bought it used, Don and I bought it used. And when it came time to upgrade it, we decided that we wanted to go with stainless steel, which makes it food grade. In fact, I remember that conversation with you, Don.
Oh, yeah.
I was kind of sitting on a fence because it was like $4,000 more to go with
Right.
stainless steel. And you were like, heck yeah, we're doing that.
Yeah, we got to do it. Yeah, we
All
did
right.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and Claudia, please send me another email, greg@urbanfarm.org, and put urgent in the subject line. I would love to see the mill be used to mill flour that way.
So
And,
let's talk about the mill for a second.
Yes.
Okay.
People can do some milling at home, but now we've got this community hammer mill. So Dawn, why would somebody consider coming to our hammer mill and use this one rather than grinding at home? What's the benefits?
Oh my goodness. It's seconds as opposed to hours.
Right.
Yeah, we can grind your stuff in like, 10 minutes. You show up with, 4 or 5 gallon buckets, and we can do that in like 10 to 15 minutes. And then the flour will be out one side and the chaff will be out the other. And you just pay for the flour by the pound, by the weight. And yeah, it's done.
So
So
we got speed.
yes,
We've got the chaff is already sifted out for the
Separated.
most part.
Yep.
And you've got a better grind, maybe?
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of reasons why you might want to consider coming to use the community mill rather than using your own Vitamix. I'm sorry, I
Also,
just
it's a-
don't understand why somebody would want to take their Vitamix on this.
Yeah, because the beans, the pods aren't so hard, but the beans are really hard. It would do a
The
number on a
seeds,
vitamin.
the seeds are hard.
The seeds.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have
Peggy,
heard
yeah?
people tell me about them doing it, and I'm like, "Ew, okay,
Yeah.
that's your Vitamix."
Peggy, how have you
Also,
done it
at-
in the kitchen?
At the milling event, it is such a great opportunity to learn more about harvesting your pods and how dry they need to be. They're inspected, so there's a lot of little things that people will learn, will educate them as they bring in their pods. So
Safety
that's
is
one great
paramount.
reason. And just the community of the event is great. But there was a few years where there wasn't the hammer mill in Phoenix, and that's when I started really teaching, because people were not they weren't harvesting mesquite like they were, and they thought that they couldn't have it. So I showed them that they could break up a few pods in a coffee grinder and then sift it out. And, it's nice, but it does take a very long time.
Yeah.
I've never tried a blender, but a coffee grinder, you can at least get a little bit of
Something.
powder.
And I would say that the most successful method at home, we very successfully use an herb mill. It looks like a
Yeah, it's kind of like a coffee grinder, just a little bit bigger.
and it works very well. It doesn't have the productivity, of a hammer mill.
In a
But one thing
pinch?
you don't want to do, yeah,
Yeah.
and they're not that expensive. It's like a Vitamix, but everything's steel. You can't see into it. It's all steel. But
Wow.
one thing you don't want to do is use a stone mill. This will gum up your stone in a matter of seconds. There's so much sugar in this bean. You're going to spend a few seconds grinding, and then you're going to spend hours cleaning your stone. So definitely do not put mesquite in a stone mill, or you'll be really sorry.
Oh, you
But,
mean one of the big flat ones that turns.
Well, yeah, there are
wheat-
stone mills people have at home, for grinding wheat berries.
Oh,
And
right.
they're lovely mills, flour mills, but don't use it to make mesquite milk, because then you won't be able to use it for much else. But
No.
anyway, people do it with coffee grinders, and it does work. And then you got to sift it. Keep in mind that when you grind it at home, do be sure and sift it. You'll be much
Yeah.
happier.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
chaff
For the
can get
sifter.
kind of, yeah.
All
Yeah,
right, so go
I
ahead,
did
Jen.
look up the carb information. Now, carbs are going to change based on the particular bean, because the honey's going to have more carbs than the velvet, etc. And the carb information that I found, I can't directly attribute it to which bean, or even if it's native or not. But just to kind of give you a general idea of where you're looking at, for 3 teaspoons, you're looking at a total carbs of 9 carbs.
Oh, well, okay. All right, so while we got everybody's attention, let's talk about what we do with the beans between tasting them and bringing them to have them milled. Who wants to take that? Peggy?
Well, I can, yes. I want to encourage people not to come home and leave it in the bucket that you harvested in, because it will get moldy and all of your pods will go bad.
Mhm.
So you need to spread them out to dry, and there are various ways of doing it. Usually I'm in a hurry, so I'll spread a sheet or have shallow boxes in my car, and I spread the pods out and use my car as a solar dehydrator.
Nice.
And yeah, it makes it easy. And but there are other ways. That's the main way in June to
So hold on. That's what you do. What do you do to
yeah.
dry them?
And then
Don?
once they're dry,
Well, I'm going to try and pull up a photograph, and I want to show you what I do, but I don't know if I have enough time right
do-
in this
you do
very
that.
moment.
I
What-
have a dehydrator that I
Yep.
use.
Exactly.
got a
That's what-
little-
Dehydrator.
I've got a little dehydrator that I put my beans in if they're a little bit,
Yep.
I try to pick them as dry as possible, so I don't have to do that. But I kind of like doing the dehydrator. My house has a good earthy scent.
Even, right? Even if the beans are dry, run them through the dehydrator for 24 hours. Because they need to snap. When you bring them down to us,
True.
they need to snap. You need to hear that snap. One thing I did a few years ago was I stuck them in a solar oven, and they got toasted in the
Toasty.
solar oven because I left them out there for the day.
Too long.
Well, too long or not, but I got toasted and they actually tasted really good.
Really?
Yeah. Mike?
We also just throw a frame together. I've got a frame 3 foot on a side with screen mesh that I use if I'm
Oh,
drying
yeah.
various kinds of beans. And it's just costs a few dollars, and you can kind of dry many at a time.
I have
Okay.
dried in the oven as well.
Oh,
You have
yes,
to
yes.
do it very low and slow because
Mhm.
it will burn. But if it does burn, grind it up and make a coffee. It's actually
Ah,
pretty good. Mhm.
Oh.
Can I share my screen, Janice?
please go.
Yes. Do you not have permission?
I don't know.
I'll
Share.
just say real quick while
Share.
you're sharing.
There you go.
Oh, no,
Can
go
you see
ahead.
that?
We can.
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
Is that an
so
old
I have
bed
an
frame?
Right.
I have an elevated
Oh, yeah, bed
platform with
frame.
well, actually these are the clothing store display units. They're metal, so they're nice and
Oh, yeah.
strong. And then I just put my sheet down on top, and then I spread out the pods. This is on my sunniest side of my driveway, so it gets all the west sun. And so I'll put it out around noon, and I'll take it indoors around 5. And then I'll put it out the next day just to make sure it's all nice and snappy, crispy.
Nice.
And then it goes straight into a 55-gallon drum with a sealed lid. And so that's how I dry my pods.
So
Awesome.
for reference there, Don,
Yeah.
how many buckets of seeds do you have right there?
Oh, shoot. Well, you see these 15-gallon containers in the top left corner. So each one of these was full. And maybe there's a couple more in there, but when I'm harvesting, I bring out a 15-gallon container, and I'll just fill them up and then haul them back home. And then once they're dried, that's why I say I put them in a 55-gallon drum with a sealed lid.
Mhm.
And
How many-
until the milling time, and then
Yeah.
I'll open the lid and let some of the insects come out. And that's a good thing, right? We'll get to the insects in a minute, but they have to get out and do their thing. But you know, that's totally fine and totally natural and what's supposed to happen. So I have
So-
some more pictures. If we come up with something, I'll bring it up, but I'll minimize that for right now if you're fine with that. And then we go on
Unshare
with
your
what's
screen.
next.
Cool.
Yeah. I got
Alright,
more harvest stuff and more things to show later.
Pam wants to know how many beans to make 5 pounds of flour.
5 pounds of flour.
That's
Yeah.
about a 5-gallon bucket.
gallons of beans and make about 5 pounds of flour.
Yeah.
5-gallon of beans we're typically coming up with about 6 to 7 pounds, depending on on
Really?
the beans. Yeah. It was a
Well,
little more
so-
than 5 pounds out of a bucket.
One of the things that I did a couple years ago is I broke them all in half. And you don't have to spend time doing that, but I got more beans in the bucket.
But then it makes it harder for the inspections. So we
Oh,
ask not to do
that's
that.
true.
Test
That is a
some of the
no,
beans.
no,
Slap my
no.
hand, okay.
It only helps you in your space. It doesn't help us in the inspection. But if you
Right.
have your beans, test a few of them to make sure they snap, and then bring them to us so that we can follow through with that. It gets through our mill
Cool.
easier if they're not snapped, not all
Correct.
broken.
Please
Mike?
leave them whole.
All right, cool, perfect. Mike, this question
Yeah.
is for
Peggy?
you.
Wait, Peggy had something
So
on
as
it.
far as, I think that I handle all of my pods, so you can actually feel if one of them isn't dry enough. If you start touching all of the dry ones, then you touch one that isn't dry, I can feel it.
Mhm.
So I think it's important to touch every pod that you're working with just to be sure of it. Because, or like even if you don't have to break it, but you can kind of try to bend it.
Mhm.
And if it's not bendy, or if it feels like, sometimes you can just shake it and hear that it's, rattles, the seeds rattle and it's dry.
That's good. So seeds rattling, dry, not bendy, dry.
Mhm.
Snapping.
If they snap, that's dry.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And tastes
Right.
good. Tastes good.
Taste.
Yep.
Taste. And you only need to taste like one bean per tree because all the tree is going to taste the same.
Right.
And
Cool.
as we talk about when to harvest, regarding dry and tasting and all of that, at some point we must talk about the weather.
Right.
That after it rains is not the time to harvest. Theoretically, the best time is before any rains. In other words, right now, or up until the next few weeks. With a little luck, the rains will come this year, right? But in any case, it is considered appropriate to do your harvesting before the rains. Some folks will wait a week or two after a rain. Some folks won't harvest at all. Once it rains, that's it. They're done for the season.
Yep.
You could conceivably, the native folks, I'm sure, I do remember reading, they'll let them dry off, but they'll continue harvesting
Yeah.
after everything dries off again.
But we don't allow our pods to get wet because of something called aflatoxin, because the main reason is that we are protecting the community. The hammer mill is, everyone's affected by if there was pods with some aflatoxin. So
Right. Mold spores.
So hold on. So let's back up here a little bit. Carrie wants to know, should pods be harvested straight off the tree or better to wait for them to fall off?
Don?
Well, that's a very good question,
Mike?
because the basic rule of thumb is harvest from the tree, not from the ground.
Always.
However, if you do put a tarp down, which some
Yes.
folks do, and catch them,
There we go.
yeah, if you catch the beans in a tarp,
Yep.
that's a good way to harvest. Or you can shake the tree with a tarp out and therefore
Yeah.
catch them from the ground. But in general, the rule is harvest from the tree, not from the ground. Once they touch the ground, we're back into potential mold territory. And I just generally consider those on the ground to be for the critters, because the beans are an important part of the life cycle here.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, harvest from the tree and not from the ground.
Yeah.
Well,
Do I still need to share my screen?
I don't know. What are you
Maybe.
sharing?
So general, I'm gonna
Harvesting?
actually, I'm gonna change that. You can go ahead and do that, Don. I'm gonna change that a little bit, Mike. Always, 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 always harvest them off of the tree. Now, in my opinion,
Don, make your picture
what-
full screen.
Full
what
screen.
Don,
Like that?
There you
yeah,
go.
perfect. What Don is doing is harvesting them off of the tree. They just happen to be falling on a tarp. So this is,
Yeah,
in my
that's what I was
opinion,
talking about.
yeah, exactly. So you always, always harvest them off of the tree. We had somebody last year or the year before bring beans in that they had washed. Don't ever do that.
No.
Don't ever do that. Yes, Janice.
When you're using a tarp, one trick is mark your tarp. Have a top side and a bottom side, and then always have that bottom side touch the ground and always have the top side touch your beans.
Oh, very
Mark your
good.
tarp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just slide it around until the next branch. So I do a branch and then I'll slide it around and I'll do a branch and I'll slide it around and I work my way around the tree.
And then when you fold it up so that the
Everything
inside's
goes into the
protected.
top and it goes home. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Kyle says, if you're drying the pods
You have to
with your,
weight it down with rocks in case the wind comes.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
sometimes I have to do that. Yeah, you're right.
okay, Kyle says, if you're drying pods with your car, do you put them on the
I-
roof or
I
inside
dry
the car?
inside.
Inside.
Yeah, you definitely, I used to just carry them around in my old truck for weeks, just left them in the truck. A few of the beetles, let's talk about beetles. But I'd end up
Beetles.
with a few beetles in the car, but in the truck, but mostly it killed the poor things. Who wants to talk about brooked beetles?
Extra protein.
Right?
So Mike, when do they enter the tree?
Oh, they enter the tree when it's a flower, don't they?
Yes,
That's right.
they lay eggs on the flower.
Right. So when they
So
produce the
There-
pod, they're already there.
Yeah, there's a little beetle that comes out of the pod, makes a little hole. A lot of people say, oh, my pod's got infested with bugs, but the brooked beetle has come out of the pod. It's just a real little tiny innocent little thing, basically. And there's no harm in it.
So you want to see the holes there because that means they've left. So, if you don't
Exactly.
see holes, where are they? But we also freeze them. We freeze our beans
Mhm.
and that solves that problem. If you harvest them and dry them and put them in the freezer, that problem goes away too.
If
The
you do
brooked-
that, you need to take them out and let it come to room temperature before you,
Mill it.
Mill it.
and then heat it.
Yeah,
I
I would
always
dry them.
make sure they're completely dry after freezing.
But the brooked beetles don't pose any harm to us, do they? If they end up being consumed, right?
Mm-mm.
It's just another protein source.
It's just the ooh factor. Are you
Yeah,
ready to
that's
eat
all it
bugs?
is. That's all it is.
Just like figs, we
Oh,
get a lot
yeah.
of that in figs,
Yep.
We're going to have a couple of days this next few weeks where we're going to have some harvesting events. Dawn and I are having a couple of events, one at Rio Vista in Peoria and one at Rio Salado in Tempe. And then that's on the 18th. And then the following weekend on the 25th, Peggy and Mike are going to be hosting one at Granada Park. And what these events are opportunities for you to come out and join us. We'll have a little mini class. We'll talk about the trees and the pods and collecting them again. Bring your collecting supplies, bring your tarps, bring your poles, bring your buckets, got to bring your buckets, and maybe even a wagon if you have it. Come join us. We'll do a little class. We'll do a little show and tell on the different trees. And then you will be free to go roam and harvest to your heart's content. We have permission from those 3 parks. We've cleared it to be able to do this. And but you can sign up for these events at theurbanfarm.asme/mesquite. So again, that's the urbanfarm.asme/mesquite. You can find those 3 sign-up events. Also at that location, you can find the sign-up events for the mesquite mill appointments for milling.
Perfect. And I also put the Mesquite page in the chat. So
Any other
Kelly wants to
Okay,
know,
so the question,
Kelly wants to know, all my pods are green right now. Is that what
Leave 'em.
color they should be when harvesting them?
this is
Nope.
the color.
Beige or whatever you want to call it. Very light tan.
Yeah.
Not green. Leave them on if they're green. Like they hang off the tree in like a little cluster. So when you come your hand in, you want to pull down, but not pull at all. Just like brush past it so that all the ripe ones fall in your bucket and all the green ones stay on the tree. That's next week.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the live events on Saturdays we call them walkabouts.
And I made a mistake. You can find the links to the walkabouts on the urbanfarm.org/mesquite page. For the events for the walkabouts, you go to urbanfarm.org/mesquite.
Well,
And
they can get it all there, right?
and that's where the links are for that. And for the
Yeah.
milling and the harvesting are also, but those are different. The ones I said earlier were for just the milling.
Okay.
My bad. I was in a hurry trying to get my data out.
Anonymous says, in Phoenix, where can I go to harvest pods on my own later? Go explore.
Don't make it too late. I mean,
Go
we got
explore.
to harvest before the end of the month.
Yep.
Because the first week of July is the beginning of the monsoon. You know, we're with that cutoff is like, it's like imminent. It's like that's the wall that we don't want to pass. So yes, please go out and harvest. Please check to make sure that they're ready and ripe to harvest, and put them in a bucket and dry them and keep them dry. Wait till the milling, bring them to the milling, and we'll deal with them there for you, unless you want to grind them yourself. But make sure that you follow the steps we've been talking about today.
I reached out to the Maricopa Flood Control District to find out about harvesting at the park near where I'm at. And I found out that they don't have any rules about doing that in the flood control, but it is problematic because of the water and the streams that are there. So you got to be careful trying to harvest in that section. But in conversation, they suggested finding the locations underneath big power lines, because that's city property and they have these nice, long, wide stretches. So if you see those really high power lines and if they have mosquitoes underneath them, those are not going to be sprayed. There's not going to be any any pesticides down there, because it's not cultivated land.
Right.
Yeah.
There's lots of parks all the way around the Metro Phoenix area that you can go to, that, you know, go with a 5-gallon bucket and no one's going to bother you for taking a few pods off the tree. So yeah, I harvest all over the place. Try and stay away from major highways. You know, we don't want that pollution that's going to be running off onto your pods and making them dirty, because you don't want, you can't clean them. So you got to find a place where there's not a lot of pollution, so you can harvest good pods straight off the tree.
And you brought it up. Concerned Phoenix JS says
personal
concerned
use,
with
national
sides.
forest and BLM.
What's that, Mike?
For personal use, BLM land, national forest land, no problem.
Okay.
And neighbors, just ask your neighbors.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
A lot of times they appreciate preventing a mess in their yard.
Right. Phoenix JS wants to know about sides, herbicides, insecticides, etc. when harvesting from parks. I don't like to harvest along the canal because I know that SRP does some of that. But I don't know that it's ever been an issue in parks. Has it, Dawn, Peggy, Janice, anybody?
I was talking to the lady who is one of the responsible parties for the city of Peoria, and they don't have the spray along the bike trails. So they do, I mean, you can tell as you're looking at these trees, they may clear cut, but they don't spray. So if you're looking at a tree that is on its natural habitat, it's going to be quite wild. It's going to go quite to the ground. It probably is going to be difficult to get underneath the tree. But if you're looking at something where it's rocks underneath and it's all, you know, like a nice manicured look, then you might know that there's going to be a concern for probably some of the sides, because people are going to try and be keeping the manicure underneath it. But if you have a very natural environment with some grasses and some plants and, you know, whatever wildlife there might be, then you're going to be more inclined to say there's not going to be any sides there.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any foliar spraying. So whatever spraying they might do would be on the ground
ground.
itself. And like any fruit or product that comes off a tree, it doesn't extend from the end of the branch into the pod itself. There's a cutoff with where the union is between branch and pod, to the best of my knowledge.
All right,
You know
couple
what?
things here.
I was just going to say it's almost time for us to do our final points.
Yeah, so let me just see if I can get these questions. There's 4 questions left. We'll take 4 more questions. Let's get them answered real quick. In terms of where to harvest, I'm assuming anything that's not private property is fair game, city parks, and Northern Desert Preserves, Reach 11 Recreation Area, Tano National Forest. I would say that's correct.
When in
Kyle-
doubt, call ahead.
If I never bothered calling, but do
I
what
just-
do what you're comfortable with. Kyle also wants to know, when Peggy was listing the species that are native, his internet connection was unstable. What are those again?
Velvet, honey, and screwbean.
Screwbean, velvet, honey, and screwbean. Also, any
So basically,
recommendations?
the ones with thorns are native, and the ones without the thornless are non-native.
Mhm.
So that's really what you find in the nurseries. So you want to really be aware of.
Yeah,
Don't buy the non-native.
And these do hybridize readily, and around Phoenix, you'll find everything in between, hybridized, not hybridized. And some taste good and some don't. And so some that appear to have no thorns wind up tasting good. So
Yeah, well,
you never know.
but a lot of
Yeah.
times they have a bad aftertaste, even if they are a
Yeah.
little sweet.
so then any recommendations on how to identify native species versus cultivated species? Yeah, taste them.
And the
Thorns and tasting.
Yeah. Let's see
Come to the
here.
walks. We'll show you which ones.
Right,
there was a
exactly.
question about-
Exactly. Come to the walks. We'll show you which ones. Kim wants to know where to buy flour. I actually bought some mesquite flour a few years ago, maybe 6 or 8 years ago, from Azure Standard. You know, check Amazon, look on the internet.
It's going to be
Like
gaining
that.
a lot of popularity, especially right now with the grain issues that are happening in the world. Our access to grains and flours is going to be dramatically decreased. So alternative flours are going to be gaining popularity, and they're probably going to be going up in price as well.
Yeah. Kim says the
I
one
still
on
have some
Amazon,
left.
the one on the seeds on Amazon are from Peru. Yep, that makes sense. Phoenix JS says Desert Botanical Gardens sells small bags. Good. And the last question, but not the least question, does the beetle or eggs affect the quality of the flour for consumption? Anybody?
No,
Does
Yep.
not.
no. The taste is so
And-
strong and
No.
yeah, no.
Yeah.
No
Well,
problem.
I wanted to ask us all to take a moment, especially since all of you have been harvesting mesquite way longer than I have. Can you just take a couple minutes and make a point? Anything that you think we might have overlooked? I'm going to start with Dawn. Just a
Ooh,
couple
put
minutes.
me on
Make
the
it quick.
spot.
Okay, you think about it.
I've just really dove right into the mesquite stuff, and I've worked with the native people. I've worked with local people. I've taken pods and say, "Here, try this. Take a nibble." And that, every time I go to a library or do a talk on permaculture or
Mhm.
something, it's like, "Taste this. Taste. Here, try that. Look at this. It's low glycemic. It's amazing stuff."
It's not as scary as he sometimes appears.
Right. Well, and that's kind of what I was going to say, Don. I was just going to say, have fun with it.
Oh yeah.
Just have fun with it. Have fun with
yeah.
your picking, your drying, milling. This is a fun, and then go make some awesome stuff. Heidi makes cookies that are out of this world.
Right.
Peggy and Mike, what do you have for us?
So right now, the pods are starting to ripen. I've seen, some trees along the street that are really ripe and ready to harvest. So be ready, find the tree and look at it every day or every other day and don't let them all fall first, you know, don't go back a week or two later and, you know, find them all on the ground. So.
Mhm.
And I,
It's like
and I
nothing,
wanna-
By the way,
nothing.
take a
ready.
tarp with you everywhere, take a stick, take bucket.
Yeah.
Keep it in your car.
Mhm.
Yep.
Mike?
And, you know, Janice made the point about people are concerned about food sources and supply chains for food and all of that. You know, if you look around Phoenix at the Palo Verde trees loaded with edible beans, the mesquite trees loaded with edible beans, the ironwood trees
Ironwood.
loaded with edible beans, and a whole bunch of others, there's enough food growing in our landscaping. We should never go hungry. Nobody in Phoenix should be hungry. And
Right.
the problem is we don't know it. We're surrounded by food and we don't know it.
Yeah.
So that's
So
what I have to say.
So spread the word.
Spread the
Everyone
word.
should spread. the word.
And you know, I'd like to say that one of the really best things that I've seen come out of learning about Mesquite is the inclusion into an amazing community. People who are so willing to share ideas, recipes, information, and even mesquite flour. So come be part of us. Come join us. Be part of this. We are excited to see the expansion of this into some of our more expanded communities. I mean, just to, you know, those who have more experience with different recipes, and just we'd love that this is going farther than as it's going out further and further. So please join us. We have so many great events coming up.
Yeah, and to find them, I just put in the chat box, urbanfarm.org/mesquite, is classes by Peggy and Mike, classes by Dawn, classes by Brad Lancaster. We have all those recorded. And it's got information on the walkabouts and the milling. So if you just go to that link, Mesquite, urbanfarm.org/mesquite,
You'll find everything.
You'll find everything there. Good
And
job, Janice.
Thank you. And we're going to be posting recipes. We're looking for good recipes. You can throw them on urbanfarm.org, and you can link. We're going to be linking to Peggy's page that has so many great recipes there as well. Come join us. So,
Do you want to mention the Mesquite and More book?
yes.
Oh. Anybody have a
moment.
copy of it close by? The crew down in Desert Harvesters down in Tucson, that's where we learned how to do it. They were that's the mill we used to bring here. That's the mill we used to bring here. They put together this book, Eat Mesquite and More, and you can find it at desertharvesters.org.
Yep.
So,
And the neat
Great
thing about
start.
this is it's mesquite and so many other
Lots
local
and lots of desert plants.
desert plants that you can turn into so many beautiful things. I had so
Yeah.
much fun doing the zucchini bread with the mesquite and the chia, and I'm just going crazy with this. This is fun.
oh yeah,
There you
there it
go.
is again.
Yep.
Woo.
Yay, Wendy. She's got a book.
Yay.
All right.
Here
Well,
we
thank
go.
you all for joining us. I am bummed. I did check out flights into Phoenix for the first weekend of July. It was $1,200 to get me there. So I unfortunately won't be there, but you'll see me there for the citrus in the fall. You guys have fun. Peggy and Mike are taking over the Granada Park walkabout, which is the one I used to do. So thank you for doing that, Peggy and Mike.
And if anybody has any ideas, recipes that they want to share, go ahead and put those links on the urbanfarm.org Facebook page. It'll get out to a lot of us.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Love
everybody.
working with you guys.
Woohoo! Keep up the good work. Thanks, Don, Peggy, Mike.
See ya.
And Dawn and I will see you on the 18th. Peggy will see you on the 25th. And then
There
all
you
of
go.
us, and then the rest of us will see you on the 1st and 2nd of July.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.